Meghan Markle is unraveling, and this time there is nowhere left to hide. Sources close to the Archwell Foundation are now revealing that drastic staff layoffs have sent shockwaves through the organization, and behind the glossy Instagram posts and carefully curated public appearances, insiders claim the Duchess of Sussex is in full panic mode over money. This is not speculation anymore. This is the financial reckoning that royal watchers have been predicting for years, and it is finally arriving at the gates of that Montecito mansion. The news broke quietly at first, almost as if someone was trying to bury it beneath the holiday chaos. Archwell, the supposedly charitable foundation that was meant to cement Harry and Meghan as global philanthropic powerhouses, is making redundancies across the board. Staff members who once believed they were part of something revolutionary are now being shown the door, and the reason is as simple as it is damning. The money is not there. The grand vision that Meghan sold to the world, the idea that she and Harry would build an empire rivaling the Obamas, is crumbling faster than anyone anticipated. Palace insiders whisper that Meghan never truly believed she would find herself in this position. When she walked away from the royal family in 2020, she reportedly assumed the offers would never stop coming. Hollywood would embrace her. Silicon Valley would throw money at her feet. Brands would line up begging for her endorsement. That was the fantasy she allegedly sold to Harry when she convinced him to abandon everything he knew. But fantasy and reality are two very different things, and reality has finally come knocking. What makes this moment so significant is the sheer speed of the collapse. Just a few years ago, Meghan and Harry were signing deals worth tens of millions of dollars. Netflix, Spotify, book deals, speaking engagements. The future looked limitless. Now Spotify has publicly walked away, calling them grifters in everything but name. Netflix has reportedly restructured their arrangement into what industry veterans are calling a fake deal, essentially keeping them on the books while slashing their compensation to a fraction of what it once was. And Archwell, the foundation that was supposed to be their legacy, cannot even keep its staff employed. The layoffs are not just a financial decision, they are a symbol of everything that has gone wrong. When you run a charitable organization that supposedly exists to help others, and you cannot afford to pay the people working for that mission, something has fundamentally broken. Sources claim Meghan has been calling emergency meetings, demanding answers, looking for someone to blame. But the person she should be looking at is staring back at her in the mirror every single morning. This is the unraveling that critics predicted from the very beginning. The warnings were ignored, the advice was dismissed. And now, as the bills pile up and the staff disappear, Meghan Markle is reportedly facing a truth she never wanted to accept. The golden ticket she thought she married into has an expiration date, and that date may have already passed. The pattern has become impossible to deny. Every major deal that Harry and Meghan have touched in the past 5 years has either collapsed entirely or been quietly restructured into something far less impressive than originally announced. Spotify walked away after labeling their output underwhelming. Netflix is reportedly paying pennies compared to the original $100 million figure that made headlines. And now Archwell is hemorrhaging staff because the charitable donations simply are not flowing the way Meghan apparently expected them to. Industry insiders have been watching this downward trajectory with a mixture of fascination and disbelief. One veteran entertainment executive recently pointed out something that cuts to the heart of the problem. When you work with celebrities at the highest level, you learn very quickly that the ones who succeed are the ones who deliver hits. It does not matter how famous you are. It does not matter how many magazine covers feature your face. If you cannot produce content that people actually want to consume, the money dries up, and Harry and Meghan have not produced a single genuine hit since leaving the royal family. This is the brutal truth that reportedly keeps Meghan up at night. She entered Hollywood believing that her title and her fame would be enough. She thought the world owed her success simply because of who she was. But Hollywood does not work that way. Hollywood chews up and spits out people with far more talent and far better connections than a former actress from a cable legal drama. The town is littered with the broken dreams of people who thought they were special. And right now, Meghan is learning that lesson the hard way. What makes the situation even more dire is the way these deals were structured from the beginning. Sources claim that Harry and Meghan were not investing their own money into these ventures. They were using other people's money, leveraging their fame to secure funding while taking minimal personal financial risk. This is common practice in entertainment and business, but it only works if you eventually deliver returns. When you keep taking money and producing nothing of value, the investors stop calling, the offers stop coming, and suddenly, you find yourself scrambling to pay the mortgage on a mansion you probably cannot afford. The Spotify disaster should have been a wake-up call. When one of the largest streaming platforms in the world publicly walks away from you after just 1 year, that is not a minor setback. That is a career-defining failure. But instead of taking accountability and adjusting their approach, Harry and Meghan reportedly blamed everyone but themselves. The staff was incompetent. The executives did not understand their vision. The media was unfair. The excuses piled up, while the opportunities quietly disappeared. Now, with Archwell laying off employees and the Netflix deal reduced to what insiders mockingly call a participation trophy, the trajectory is undeniable. Harry and Meghan are not ascending. They are falling, and the ground is rushing up to meet them faster than anyone could have predicted. Here is where the story takes a turn that will leave you shaking your head in disbelief. Sources are now revealing that the salaries being paid to Archwell staff were absolutely staggering, and yet somehow, these highly compensated employees failed to deliver anything resembling results. We are talking about six-figure salaries for positions that produced no measurable impact, no viral campaigns, no successful product launches, and certainly no return on investment. The money was pouring out of Archwell like water through a sieve, and Meghan reportedly kept signing the checks anyway. This is what happens when you confuse spending money with accomplishing something. Meghan apparently believed that surrounding herself with expensive talent would automatically translate into success. Hire the best people, pay them handsomely, and watch the magic happen. But the magic never materialized. Instead, sources claim that Archwell became a bloated operation where staff members enjoyed generous compensation packages while the actual work remained stagnant. Meetings were held, strategies were discussed, memos were written, but hits were never produced. The American Riviera Orchard debacle perfectly illustrates this dysfunction. When Meghan attempted to launch her lifestyle brand, she reportedly struggled to find a chief executive officer willing to take the job. The reason was telling. According to sources, the salary Meghan was offering did not match the expectations for someone qualified to launch a major consumer brand. She wanted top-tier talent, but apparently was not prepared to pay top-tier rates. This created an impossible situation where the brand languished without proper leadership, while Meghan allegedly blamed everyone else for the delays. But here is the contradiction that makes this so infuriating. If Meghan was unwilling to pay competitive rates for a CEO position that could actually generate revenue, why was she reportedly paying astronomical salaries to staff members whose roles produced nothing tangible? The math simply does not add up. You cannot claim to be fiscally responsible while simultaneously burning through funds on positions that deliver zero return. Either the money management was catastrophically poor, or the priorities were completely backwards. Perhaps both. Industry observers have pointed out that successful charitable foundations operate with lean efficiency. They maximize every dollar toward their stated mission. They do not pay Hollywood-level salaries to administrative staff while struggling to fund actual programs. But Archwell apparently operated more like a vanity project than a serious philanthropic endeavor. The office, which sources mockingly point out is really just a room in their house, would issue press releases from the office of the Duke and Duchess as if they were running a multinational corporation. The pretentiousness was staggering, and now it is being exposed for exactly what it was. The layoffs currently devastating Archwell are not just about cutting costs. They are an admission that the entire structure was unsustainable from the beginning. Meghan built an organization designed to make her feel important, rather than one designed to actually function. And now, as the money runs dry, those eye-watering salaries have become eye-watering liabilities that she simply cannot afford anymore. Just when you thought this situation could not become more absurd, sources are now revealing a plan so desperate that it almost defies belief. With paid staff being shown the door and budgets collapsing, Meghan and Harry are allegedly exploring the idea of recruiting active volunteers to keep Archwell operational. That is right, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, who reportedly spent years demanding million-dollar salaries and luxury accommodations, are now apparently considering asking regular people to work for them for free. The irony here is so thick you could cut it with a knife. This is a couple who left the royal family claiming they needed financial independence. They signed deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They purchased a mansion worth nearly $15 million. They travel on private jets. They demand security details that cost taxpayers and hosts astronomical sums. And now, when their foundation is struggling, their solution is allegedly to ask volunteers to donate their labor while the royals continue living in luxury. The optics could not possibly be worse. But the problems with this volunteer scheme go far beyond simple hypocrisy. Sources close to the situation are pointing out a glaring issue that apparently has not occurred to Meghan and Harry. Their obsession with security and privacy makes a volunteer-based operation practically impossible. These are people who have spent years complaining about leaks to the press. They have accused family members, former staff, and seemingly everyone they have ever encountered of betraying their trust. They allegedly require non-disclosure agreements from anyone who enters their orbit. So how exactly are they planning to vet volunteers who will presumably have access to sensitive foundation information? The answer is that they probably cannot, and this is where the scheme falls apart entirely. Charitable organizations that rely on volunteers typically operate with transparency. They welcome community involvement. They understand that volunteers talk to their friends and families about their experiences. But Harry and Meghan have built their entire post-royal existence around secrecy and control. These two philosophies cannot coexist. Either you open your doors to well-meaning volunteers and accept that information will flow freely, or you maintain your paranoid grip on every piece of information and pay staff who are bound by employment contracts. Insiders are already predicting disaster. It is only a matter of time, one source claimed, before some volunteer walks into that operation, sees how things really work behind the scenes, and shares everything with the press. And when that happens, Meghan will play the victim card all over again. She will cry about betrayal and privacy violations while conveniently ignoring that she created this situation by being too cheap to pay actual employees. This volunteer plan is not a strategic pivot. It is a white flag. It is an admission that the money has run out and the options have narrowed to almost nothing. Meghan Markle, who once dreamed of building a billion-dollar empire, is now allegedly reduced to asking strangers to work for free. The fall from grace could not be more complete. The isolation is becoming impossible to hide. Once upon a time, Meghan Markle believed she would waltz into Hollywood and be embraced by the most powerful people in entertainment. She thought her royal connections would open every door. She assumed the A-list would welcome her with open arms, but sources are now confirming what observers have suspected for months. The elite circles of Los Angeles want absolutely nothing to do with Harry and Meghan, and the doors that once seemed wide open have slammed shut with devastating finality. Consider the evidence. Where are the Hampton sightings? Where are the photographs of Meghan lounging on fancy yachts with billionaire friends? Where are the paparazzi shots outside exclusive restaurants where the rich and famous gather? They simply do not exist. Despite living in California for nearly 5 years, Meghan and Harry have failed to penetrate the upper echelons of Hollywood society. They exist on the periphery, looking in through the window at a party they were never truly invited to attend. The Clooneys have reportedly distanced themselves completely. George Clooney, who once spoke warmly about the couple and even attended their wedding, has allegedly gone cold. The Obamas, whose higher ground model Meghan desperately wanted to replicate, have shown no interest in collaborating or even publicly associating with the Sussexes. The Beckhams, once considered close friends, reportedly find them tedious and have quietly severed ties. One by one, the celebrity relationships that Meghan cultivated have withered and died. The reason for this social exile is painfully simple. The wealthy and powerful value one thing above almost everything else, and that is discretion. They need to know that private conversations will remain private. They need confidence that social gatherings will not become fodder for tabloid stories or Netflix documentaries. And Harry and Meghan have proven time and again that they cannot be trusted with sensitive information. They blab, they write memoirs, they sit down for explosive interviews, they weaponize private moments for public sympathy. No one with real power wants that kind of liability in their social circle. Sources within Hollywood circles have been blunt about the situation. The word toxic gets thrown around constantly when discussing the Sussexes. People see them as users who collect relationships for strategic purposes rather than genuine connection. Meghan reportedly worked rooms like a politician at Kris Jenner's recent birthday party, handing out contact information to anyone who would take it. That kind of desperate networking does not go unnoticed in a town built on reading people's intentions. The result is a strange kind of celebrity purgatory. Harry and Meghan are too famous to be ignored but too problematic to be embraced. They attend events but do not receive invitations to the truly exclusive gatherings. They live in one of the most connected zip codes in America, yet remain profoundly disconnected from the community around them. Hollywood has rendered its verdict, and the verdict is rejection. The dream of becoming entertainment royalty has become a nightmare of social isolation. If you needed proof that Meghan Markle has hit rock bottom, look no further than the latest reports about her alleged new best friends. Sources are claiming that the Sussexes have been cozying up to none other than Kris Jenner and the Kardashian clan, attending events, networking furiously, and reportedly even discussing potential collaborations. For a woman who once positioned herself as a serious humanitarian and champion of privacy, the desperation could not be more transparent. Meghan Markle is apparently ready to join forces with the family that literally became famous because of a leaked intimate tape. The reports emerged after Harry and Meghan attended Kris Jenner's star-studded 70th birthday bash in November. According to sources who spoke to media outlets, Meghan was like a kid in a candy shop, working the room and handing out her contact details to anyone who would take them. She reportedly told guests she has the utmost respect for Kris and is thrilled to be on a first-name basis with Kim, Khloe, and their vast network of friends. For someone who supposedly values privacy and discretion, attaching herself to the most overexposed family in America is quite the strategic pivot. But the truly mortifying details involve what these collaborations might actually look like. Radar Online reported that Kris Jenner allegedly wants to write Harry and Meghan into an upcoming episode of The Kardashians. Let that sink in for a moment. A former senior member of the British royal family, the grandson of Queen Elizabeth, potentially appearing on a reality show famous for documenting family drama, romantic disasters, and cosmetic procedures. The Queen must be spinning in her grave, and it gets worse. Sources claim there has even been talk about Harry getting involved with Kim Kardashian's underwear brand Skims. The mental image alone is enough to make royal watchers cringe. Prince Harry, sixth in line to the throne, Duke of Sussex, veteran of the British Army, potentially modeling undergarments for a brand built by a reality television star. This is what the great escape from royal life has apparently led to. Underwear advertisements. The Kardashians represent everything Meghan once claimed to stand against. They built their empire by exposing every intimate detail of their lives to public consumption. They monetize their children relentlessly. They treat privacy as a commodity to be sold rather than a value to be protected. And yet here is Meghan reportedly throwing herself at this family because they are the only people in Los Angeles willing to give her the time of day. What makes this particularly tragic is that it probably will not work. The Kardashians are successful because they are authentic in their shamelessness. They own exactly who they are. Meghan has spent years pretending to be something she is not, and audiences can smell the inauthenticity from miles away. Partnering with the Kardashians will not rehabilitate her image. It will only confirm what critics have been saying all along. She will do absolutely anything for fame and money. Marketing experts are now weighing in on a question that has haunted Meghan Markle for years. Can her brand actually be saved, or has the damage become so severe that no amount of rebranding, pivoting, or strategic partnerships can resurrect her public image? The consensus emerging from industry professionals is brutal. Meghan has crossed a threshold from which very few public figures ever return, and the reasons have everything to do with her own repeated missteps. The fundamental problem is one of self-sabotage. Time after time, Meghan has found herself on the verge of a positive moment, only to undermine it with tone-deaf decisions or unnecessary controversy. She releases heartfelt content about family values while simultaneously refusing to reconcile with her own father. She preaches about authenticity, while everything about her public persona feels meticulously calculated. She advocates for media responsibility while selectively leaking information to friendly outlets. The contradictions are endless, and audiences have grown exhausted trying to reconcile the image she projects with the behavior they observe. Consider the branding choices themselves. As ever, with love, Meghan, American Riviera Orchard. Critics have pointed out that these names drip with a kind of saccharine pretentiousness that feels deeply inauthentic. One commentator recently observed that the With Love Meghan name seems designed to manifest affection through sheer repetition, as if saying the word love enough times will somehow make people actually love her. The psychology behind these choices reveals someone profoundly insecure, desperately seeking validation through branding rather than earning it through substance. The lifestyle space Meghan has chosen to enter is particularly unforgiving. Successful lifestyle brands are built by people who demonstrate genuine expertise and relatability. Martha Stewart survived prison and rebuilt her empire because she actually knows how to cook, decorate, and entertain at an expert level. Indergarten commands loyalty because her recipes consistently deliver delicious results. What does Meghan bring to this space? A title she no longer uses in any meaningful way, and a lifestyle most of her potential customers could never afford or relate to. Sources within the marketing industry have pointed out another critical flaw. Meghan lacks the substance that audiences in this space demand. Social media has evolved. Viewers follow creators who provide genuine expertise and teach them something new. They want beautiful recipes from actual experts. They want practical advice they can implement in their own lives. They do not want a former actress pretending to be a domestic goddess while clearly having staff handle every actual task. The performance is too obvious, and modern audiences are too sophisticated to fall for it. The wine launch for American Riviera Orchard perfectly encapsulated these problems. Reports suggested around 10,000 bottles sold, which sounds impressive until you realize that represents roughly 3,000 customers buying the 3-bottle minimum. In an industry where 10,000 cases represents the low end of success, 10,000 bottles is a rounding error. The brand is not thriving, it is barely surviving, and the trajectory points only downward. Meghan Markle has spent years positioning herself as a victim of relentless media persecution. Every negative story is framed as an attack. Every criticism becomes evidence of racism or jealousy or some vast conspiracy to destroy her. But her latest skirmish with British media has exposed something far more troubling than unfair coverage. It has revealed a pattern of attempting to rewrite history, and the cracks in her carefully constructed narrative are becoming impossible to ignore. The controversy erupted when GB News commentator Carol Malone made claims on air about Meghan's mother Doria Ragland having been in prison during Meghan's childhood. The statement prompted immediate legal threats from Meghan's team, and within days Malone was dragged back into the studio to deliver what viewers described as a hostage video apology. She read a prepared statement acknowledging that her claims were based on misinformation she had seen online, and apologizing sincerely to Doria and her family. For Meghan, this should have been a clean victory. Instead, she turned it into another public relations disaster. Rather than accepting the apology graciously and moving forward, Meghan's spokesperson released an aggressive statement to People magazine. The statement did not simply address the prison claims, it went further, asserting that Doria proudly raised her daughter. This seemingly innocuous phrase has sparked outrage among those familiar with Meghan's actual upbringing, because it appears to be a direct attempt to erase Thomas Markle's role in her life. Family sources have pushed back forcefully against this characterization. According to people who actually knew the family during Meghan's childhood, Doria was largely absent during Meghan's teenage years. They never saw Doria at Thomas's house. They never asked about her because she simply was not around. Thomas was the one who raised Meghan during those formative years. He paid for her private education. He brought her to work on the set of Married with Children. He funded her college education. The photographic evidence supports this account, showing countless images of teenage Meghan with her father, while photos with Doria from that period are conspicuously rare. The statement from Meghan's team could have simply said that Doria was never in prison without making broader claims about who raised whom. But Meghan apparently could not resist the opportunity to diminish her father's contributions while elevating her mother's role. This is particularly cruel given that Thomas Markle is elderly and in poor health. The attempt to rewrite his legacy while he is still alive speaks to a coldness that even Meghan's critics find shocking. What makes this media war so counterproductive is that Meghan keeps winning battles while losing the larger conflict. Yes, she forced an apology from GB News, but in doing so, she reminded everyone of the family estrangement. She drew attention to questions about her childhood. She demonstrated once again that she cannot accept victory without overreaching. The British media may have given her a retraction, but the public has given her something far more damaging: their growing contempt. While Meghan scrambles to save her collapsing empire, there is another figure in this drama whose situation may be even more tragic. Prince Harry, once one of the most beloved royals in the world, now finds himself trapped in wreckage largely of his own making. His relationship with his father, King Charles, lies in ruins. His brother William reportedly wants nothing to do with him, and the life he abandoned everything to build in California appears to be crumbling around him faster than anyone anticipated. The signs of Harry's deteriorating position are everywhere. Reports recently surfaced that he has legally changed his official residence from the United Kingdom to the United States, a symbolic severing of ties that speaks volumes about where his head is at. The Archwell Foundation, which was supposed to be his vehicle for continued relevance, has lost millions and is now shedding staff. His court cases against British media outlets drag on endlessly, creating ongoing tension with the royal family who wish he would simply let the matters rest. Every decision he makes seems to drive him further from any possibility of reconciliation. Royal correspondent Robert Bell recently offered a devastating assessment of Harry's situation. The prince, he observed, permanently positions himself as the victim rather than taking any accountability for the problems he has caused. This victim mentality has become Harry's defining characteristic. Nothing is ever his fault. The family failed him. The institution betrayed him. The media persecuted him. The narrative never changes, and the lack of self-reflection has made genuine reconciliation virtually impossible. King Charles reportedly wants to repair the relationship with his younger son. That desire is said to be in the king's nature, this wish to bring his family back together despite everything that has happened. But every time an olive branch appears, Harry finds a way to set it on fire. He leaks to the press. He makes accusations in documentaries. He writes memoirs exposing private family conversations. The trust has been so thoroughly destroyed that William reportedly refuses to be in the same room as his brother, unless absolutely necessary. The brotherhood that once charmed the world has become a casualty of Harry's choices. What makes Harry's situation particularly poignant is the growing sense that he may be realizing the magnitude of his mistakes. Sources describe him as increasingly withdrawn, struggling to find his footing in a world where his title means little and his wife's ventures keep failing. He gave up everything for this California dream, and the dream has become a nightmare. His children are growing up without knowing their cousins, their grandfather the king, or any connection to their British heritage. The isolation that Meghan reportedly craves has become Harry's prison. The question that haunts royal watchers is whether Harry will ever find the courage to admit he was wrong. His entire identity is now built around justifying his departure. Acknowledging error would mean confronting the possibility that he destroyed his family relationships for nothing. That may be a truth too painful for him to ever accept. Everything we have discussed leads to one inescapable conclusion. The unraveling of Meghan Markle is not approaching some distant endpoint. It is accelerating, and the worst may still be yet to come. The foundation is bleeding money. The staff is disappearing. The Hollywood connections have evaporated. The media wars continue to backfire. And somewhere in that Montecito mansion, two people who once believed they could conquer the world are reportedly facing the terrifying reality that their empire was built on sand. The financial pressures alone would be enough to crack most marriages. Sources have long whispered about tension between Harry and Meghan over money, priorities, and the direction of their public lives. Harry allegedly never wanted the constant media exposure that Meghan seems to crave. Meghan reportedly cannot understand why Harry will not fully embrace the celebrity lifestyle that could potentially save their finances. They want fundamentally different things, and those differences are becoming harder to paper over as the bank accounts shrink and the opportunities dry up. The children add another layer of impossible complexity to this situation. Harry has spent years preaching about the dangers of social media and the importance of protecting children's privacy. He has accused his own family of failing to shield him from public scrutiny, and yet the only path forward that might actually generate significant income would require exposing Archie and Lilibet to exactly the kind of attention Harry claims to despise. The Kardashian model demands that the children become content. It requires their faces on Instagram, their milestones documented for public consumption, their privacy sacrificed on the altar of brand building. Can Harry really agree to that after everything he has said? Industry observers predict that the coming year will force decisions that Harry and Meghan have been avoiding. The current trajectory is simply unsustainable. You cannot maintain a $15 million mansion, security costs reportedly running into millions annually, and the lifestyle of Hollywood royalty when your ventures keep failing and your foundation cannot afford to pay its staff. Something has to give, and the options are all unpalatable. Sell the house, abandon the security demands, expose the children, crawl back to the royal family. Each choice carries consequences that Meghan has spent years trying to avoid. The saddest part of this entire saga is how preventable it all was. Harry and Meghan were handed opportunities that most people could never dream of receiving. They had fame, connections, a global platform, and genuine goodwill from millions of people who wanted them to succeed. All they had to do was produce quality work and treat people with basic decency. Instead, they burned every bridge, blamed everyone else, and watched their empire crumble while insisting they were victims of forces beyond their control. The unraveling is real, the panic is justified, and the world is watching to see just how far this fall will go. Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you will not believe what is coming next.